Sitaram, good morning and welcome to another program in the series Addiction and Recovery. I'm your host, Ram Naresh Dwarika, and this morning we are going to be doing the program in two parts. But let me just say that this program will again be repeated on radio and TV Jagriti at 10 p.m. tonight, and it is usually posted a few minutes after the conclusion of the program on YouTube and Facebook. And it's there as a resource for anyone who would wish to go back to or refer to the program, or more importantly, they can refer this as a link to someone who they believe might benefit from this program, because we know how difficult it is to get people to agree to do something about their drinking or drug use. And from personal experience, I know an alcoholic or drug addict would rather sit in their own time secretly sometimes, and read the literature and seek help, because being a person in recovery myself, I know, alcoholics and drug addicts are not really foolish, stupid people. Some drugs could get you can become mentally ill after, prolonged use. But generally, in my experience, most alcoholics and addicts were people with very good ambitions, who had a lot of goals and plans to improve themselves, very smart and intelligent. And
I am Ram Naresh Dwarika, inviting you to the.
yes, so sorry about that. We had a repeat of something there. So I want to say to all our listeners, yes, this is an interactive program, and you can call 663-2335 or 663-1027 if you have a question or comment, and we would try our best to entertain it. And of course, if you can't get on the program during the live program, you can reach me at 671-3040. That is 671-3040. I want to thank Francis. I know he's a little bit under the weather like myself. We both were struggling as to whether we should do this program live this morning. I want to thank him in advance, and also for sourcing a lot of very valuable material, the 12 steps and other video programs that are relevant to the subject that we are speaking about. This morning, I want to piggyback on an experience I had yesterday with a family. Here's a mother and father, and I know this couple, they listen to this program, and I don't think they would mind if I make reference to some of the issues that were raised, because these are two parents who have been doing everything possible. Whatever I had suggested to them, they've been following, trying their best to, because they have this young son who was very educated, very well employed, but who has become the victim of this illness of alcoholism. And while he's not violent, he's not aggressive. Yes, he might be a bit of a nuisance at home, but, they have been forever seeking ways and means, like any good parent will. And I know, and today I'm speaking about this because I know a lot of parents and family members listening to this program out there have the same concerns. And this is why I've decided to share not the details of their story, because alcoholism as a disease it really doesn't matter whether you live in West Moorings or you live in the plains of Caroni, whether you are rich, you're living in a 5-story building, or you're living in a shack. It will affect everyone the same way. And it is generally the recovery will necessitate the same strategies. Now, I know that a lot of parents, especially for those who have sought help for their children, And and not only parents, but siblings as well. And you have this brother or sister or this son who went to counseling, went to see Mr. Dwarika, was doing very well, seemed to understand everything, following the instructions, and then they relapse. Even going to the AA meetings, online, whatever, and still relapse. And every time this happens, it is a severe blow to the confidence of the parents or the siblings who are trying to assist, or the colleagues who are trying to assist this person, because their hopes go very high. They are wishing that the person would make it this time, only to find, and when they sat back and thought, well, hey, I think he's on the right track now, he's on the straight and narrow, only to hear that, the news comes that last night, for some, to them, some unforeseen reason, some trivial matter, he went back and drink. And they can't seem to understand why, because it takes you back to a place where you realize, well, look, what else? He has gone for counseling, he has had acupuncture, he has been going to the meetings and all of that. And what more can be done? Because, this was the advice, and he was following to the best of his ability. And they question whether there's any hope left for people like this. And I want to assure all our listeners today, in fact, there is hope. And a lot of our anxiety regarding that sort of situation comes from not fully understanding the nature of this disease that we are dealing with. I have said on this program many times, alcoholism and drug addiction is a disease, just like any other disease. It's a disease of denial because of the stigma associated with it. But it is also cunning, baffling, and powerful if you do not understand what you're dealing with here. And especially, not only the parents and the siblings do not understand well. When they do not understand, they lose hope. They become desperate, they become anxious, they become angry sometimes. But more so for the person themselves. Can't understand, well, what more can I do? I've been following the instructions, staying away from people, places, and situation where the drink is available, avoiding the first drink one day at a time. That's the general universal formula. I've been doing that. I'm getting up in the morning and I pray and asking God to keep me sober. And, to the best of my ability, I've been trying to follow all the instructions. And yet, I've relapsed. And when that happens, because I recall in my own experience when I would relapse, I would feel so ashamed, especially if I had promised other people, and I was receiving their commendations for staying sober initially. When I relapse, I would want to hide from them. I want to hide from myself. It's a very shaming experience. So I want all our listeners who have the problem, who are drinkers and drug users, who have been through this experience, I want to let you know there is hope. But the hope lies in first understanding the nature of the condition that you're dealing with, and then following through with what is necessary to be done. And, at the beginning of every program, and lately we have been playing the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. Now, attending the meetings, avoiding the first drink, all of those, as I said, keeping your stomach full, staying away from your drinking friends, all of those will help. But those are not sufficient to keep a person sober. It will help you to stay stopped. But the important thing is not only staying stopped, is not only stopping, but staying stopped and being happy staying stopped. So I know time is always rushing up on us, but you know, as I said earlier on, I'm going to do this program in two parts, so that those of you, because I've heard a comment from a lot of people, it's very difficult to sit and listen to a program for that is 40 minutes, 45 minutes, and so on. So might be a useful strategy to break it up into segments. So in this first segment, I want to let people know, conclude by saying that, listen, alcoholism is a disease, and drinking alcohol or using drugs, marijuana, cocaine, whatever they use, those are only a symptom of the disease. I want that to sink in. The drinking the rum is not really the disease. The drinking of the alcohol and using of the drugs is a response to the disease. There are other symptoms. And in the second part of the program, I will want to go into looking at some of these other symptoms because if left untreated, as a lot of family and siblings and colleagues and employers and so on think that, look, if he just stopped drinking, problem will be solved. Even spouses think so. But no, one has to understand what led him to become dependent on drink. Alcohol don't taste nice, it doesn't have a pleasant taste in the mouth. You look at somebody taking their first drink and realize that. So one has to understand the underlying factors because those are not attended to, then the person's sobriety will be precarious. You know, they inevitably could relapse. However, going to meetings is critical, especially for beginners in the beginning stage, attending as many meetings because it is by attending meetings that one is able to learn these other symptoms, to be able to recognize them from listening to other people. They're able to recognize, but wait, you know, that was also happening. That was my mindset at the time. Those were the things that I thought, and those were the things that I believed. And those would be the things that led to the person's drinking in the first place. A lot of people start out of curiosity and drink recreationally. But then those who have other psychological issues unresolved, poor coping skills, who suffer with low self esteem, those would be the ones who will now go beyond recreational drinking and start using the alcohol to self medicate, to deal with these bouts of depression and anxiety. So, when we come back in the second part of this program, we will look at some of these things and how it relates, how the recovery program can address those things. Because without realizing it, as I said earlier on, one's sobriety is precarious. So, I'll stop at this point and we take a little commercial and we'll get back to the second part of the program.